Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optics Podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and to everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined by two friends of the show. We have Michelangelo and Leonardo here today with us, and we're going to be giving our full-blown spoiler thoughts on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. We actually already have a spoiler-free review for you guys to listen to. So if you haven't seen the film yet, you can definitely check that one out first. And then if you need some more turtles in your life, you can check out this spoiler review. So before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to our show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Film Optics. That is optics with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptics@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. So I was not joking when I said that I had Michelangelo and the Leonardo here with me today. We have Mike from Collider / The Chatter After / Amateur Otaku. And of course, we have Leo from the Geekly Goods YouTube channel. Gentlemen, how have you been today?
I've been great. I actually just got out this movie like an hour before we went live with this recording. So this is my fresh take. But I do wonder if Christian only brought us because we are literally named after Ninja Turtles.
Whoa. The secret's out. No. It's like, cut the podcast. Cut it. Leo, how you been today, buddy?
What's going on, y'all? Leonardo here. I really love this movie, so I'm glad you brought me on for this one. I'm not just getting out. It's been a couple weeks, but still, this is near and dear to my heart. In my top 3 of the year, so can't wait to talk about it, bro. Thanks for having me on. Mike, good to see you.
Good to see you back in the digital space.
I know, long time no see, huh?
Seriously, it's been a week, guys, but I wanted to ask you guys how your week has been, what you've been watching, and also let people know where they can find you. And also wanted to ask you guys, who is your favorite Ninja Turtle? We'll start with Mike and then go to Leo.
Yeah, so I've been a fan of the Ninja Turtles my entire life. Like, I kid you not. While you guys are watching Dragon Ball Z, I was watching Ninja Turtles. I remember because they came on the exact same...
Guilty!
They came on the exact same 4 kids block. It would be Dragon Ball, Ninja Turtles, One Piece. I would always turn it off when One Piece started. I'm sorry, I did. But no shade to One Piece, but that's the block that was on. I was a huge Turtles fan. So it's funny because every era of the Turtles, I found myself kind of gravitating to a different turtle in each iteration. So as a kid, it was always Michelangelo, of course, party dude. As a teenager, it was Raphael because angst, and I was a very big emo kid. So of course it was Raphael. But as I've matured and mellowed out, Leonardo is fantastic. And Donatello, though, I think right now is my personal favorite, the one I relate to the most. But Leo gets all the cool stories because of course he does. So those are probably top 2, but still have love for Mikey and Raph as well.
I feel it. And let the people know where they can find you on the internet.
You guys can find me at Novice Cinephile on X. Ew.
Twitter. We'll call it Twitter.
Sure. Twitter at Novice Cinephile, on Threads and Instagram at The Novice Cinephile. And of course, the Chatter After podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, and the Chatter After Daily, where we're doing live streams and pre-recorded stuff every single day. We actually are doing a ranking of all of the Ninja Turtles movies that these two gentlemen here are actually going to be a part of. So that's going to be great, especially since Christian is watching through a lot of those for the first time. So check that out.
So, Mr. Leo, what have you been watching? Where can people find you? And who is your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Mr. Leo make me feel like I'm somebody's elementary school teacher. But yeah, man, I've full transparency, y'all, got laid off. So I've just been kind of looking for jobs and trying to make some content. So honestly, the week's been pretty good. Can't complain. I've been catching up with the TMNT movies again as well. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of the movies. I got 3 slated for tonight.
Woo! 3. My gosh.
Time travel.
Woohoo! Can't wait. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot better ones down the road, so I'm looking forward to those. Finish The Bear season 1. What a show. I'm loving it. Literally, like you did, Mike. Nobody can see, but you did a chef's kiss. I completely agree. It's amazing, but very stressful. So I've taken a break with the TMNT stuff. And listen, I promise it's not the name. I promise, okay? But it's always been Leonardo for me. He's always just been the one. I mean, he is the leader of the Turtles, but he's always been the one to bring the best out of the Turtles, and I love that about him. I think that he's not the strongest, he's not the smartest, he's not the fastest or most adaptable, but he does bring out that in his brothers. So I love it. Always connected to Leo in that way. So my favorite Ninja Turtle is the blue one.
Hey, he's got double swords. It's really hard to be a character who has double swords. Like, it's very difficult.
You know who can beat a character that has double swords, though?
What?
The one with the size who can literally snap the swords in half. I'm just saying.
That is true.
Just saying.
Yeah. Leo's beat Wrath.
Whew, man, oh man.
Plot armor. But yes, he has beaten Wrath.
Oh my gosh. And also, of course, Leo, let everyone know where they can find you on the internet.
You guys can find me over at Geekly Goods on YouTube and across all other social media platforms. And if you're on YouTube and you like live streams, come on over to Geekly Goods Live, which is our exclusive home for all live stream content, guys. Come on over. You'll search up Geekly Goods on YouTube. You'll see a logo with me and 2 G's. Hit that subscribe button, y'all, and let's talk some geek, man.
All right. I love it. I absolutely love it. For me, I guess I'll make mine a little bit quicker. My week's been pretty good. Just another week at work, stressing out about trying to get these movies watched for Mike's live stream. I've gone through the first 3 Turtle movies. I remember seeing like bits of the first one, but I was born in 92. So like the first movie was already kind of like out. But I remember seeing snippets at like a friend's house or something like that, but wasn't fully paying attention at that time. I was like super into Lion King and like Power Rangers and like Legos and stuff. But I really came into the Turtles around the 2003 show because I've never seen the original cartoon show because that ran for like, gosh, that was a lot of seasons. There's like 195 episodes of like the cartoon show. But of course, stemming from the comics. But yeah, I've never seen the original show. I've seen like clips like here and there, but never like all the way through. But yeah, my love of the Turtles really came through with the 2003 show that came out where they're, all big and buff and like super edgy and whatnot with the wide eyes and whatnot. So yeah, that was my introduction to them. But outside of the Turtle movies that I've been watching, I've just been keeping up on some Succession. I've been watching some My Adventures with Superman. I'm on episode 5 right now, so I've actually been trying to play catch up. I've been really, really bad at it. It's been busy. I'm studying for some certifications as well, so that's taking up a lot of time. But outside of that, my favorite turtle, this is so difficult because when I was younger, I loved Leonardo. Like I said, he has 2 swords, and it's like, it's so hard to beat that. I love each and every turtle for their own thing. But right now, I'm really feeling the Michelangelo vibe. So I'm just going to say Mikey because he's like, even after watching, the original live action, like bodysuited turtle movies, he's probably my favorite. I think he's a very well written character, especially in the first 2 movies. Like, I mean, especially all the turtles. They're like just naturally funny. Nothing felt forced, except for that 3rd movie. I'll talk about that a different day. But yeah, right now, it's definitely Michelangelo, especially after this Mutant Mayhem that, of course, we're talking about here today, diving into spoilers. So yeah, I mean, I love all the turtles dearly because, you can kind of pull from each one. Donatello, he's an IT dude. Like, I definitely resonate with that. But yeah, like, I don't think there's a wrong answer. Everyone just has their own favorite turtle. And yeah, they're the core 4. You can't, they stand as one altogether. But as I mentioned before, we are going to be getting into our spoilers here for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, the latest turtle movie from Nickelodeon / Paramount. So without further delay, we'll be right back after this introduction to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
Boys, where have you been? I've been freaking out.
We're sorry, Dad.
It was this one, it was this cat, and I'm scared of cats, so.
Yeah, we did have to.
Wait a second. You said you would go shopping, then come right back. Where were you?
Nothing.
Look, we're really sorry, Splinter. Some of the guys want to see a movie, and I try to talk them out of it.
Leo! Are you
What? You watch a movie with a humans? Ugh.
You ratted us out.
Hey, don't use that word that way.
It's 2023.
Sorry, Dad.
And we are back with our spoiler-free review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. This film is directed by Jeff Rowe, and writers include Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, Jeff Rowe, Dan Hernandez, and Benji Samit, and stars Nicolas, Cantu, Brady, Noon, Micah, Abbey, and Shamon Brown Jr. as the four turtles. Of course, we're also graced with our presence with Mr. Jackie Chan as Master Splinter, and so many actors are in this movie. It's quite a stacked film. But as I mentioned, we're just going to dive straight into our initial thoughts here. So we're going to start with Leo, then we're going to go to Mike, and then I will go for myself. So Leo, kick us off. What did you think of this film?
So initially coming out the theater, I think a lot of people kept asking, like, hey, how do you feel about this compared to Spider-Verse? You know, that question keeps coming around, like, okay, TMNT, Across the Spider-Verse, which did you like better? I don't really like to compare, although I can say Spider-Verse. There's a lot of Spider-Man stuff in my room, so I'm a little biased. But I do think this is another positive step in recognizing animation as a medium and not just something for kids. Even though this is a family-friendly movie, I, as an adult, had a blast with this. I mean, there's phenomenal music drops in this. The art style, while the trailer kind of cooked it up to look a little like Spider-Verse, once I actually watched the full movie, it does have its own unique style that kind of does blend a little bit of Spider-Verse, Mitchell's versus the Machines, but also its own unique feel and style to it. There's some real cool sketched out scenes in the film that remind you of the very early TMNT comics. I really loved this movie. I think I like the synergy between the four brothers here. A lot of them get really split and equal screen time, similar to like the 90s, because I think when we got into like 03 and we got into some of those other series, Leo and Raph got pretty heavy-handed with the story. But I do think here you get a pretty equal footing for a lot of the Turtles in terms of their character arcs, their story. I like the action sequences a lot. There was one action sequence in the movie, which we can get to in spoilers, but there's one action sequence in the movie that I just cannot wait to see again, cutting between the four turtles. Loved that sequence. Leonardo, my favorite. I love that it starts out that he's not the confident leader that we know Leo to be. You know, in that 03 series, it just kind of is like there. He's like the guy. Shredder or Master Splinter already has his like trust in him, but I like here that it is him discovering how to be an adequate leader among the turtles. So I love that character arc for Leo. Everybody is just so cool. Like I love all the turtles and they act like teenagers through most of the adaptions, but I think here they actually feel like goofy ass teenagers. And so I think that it works the most when you think of like goofy teenagers and teenagers, especially of this era. They really do emulate that energy very well. I really had a blast. I don't have too many complaints, but I loved it, man. I loved the character arc for my favorite Leo. I love the character arcs for the rest of the Turtles, and I can't wait for a sequel. I'm actually really excited. It's like I'm sitting here and I'm like, Secret Invasion disappointed me. Maybe I'm sick of the franchises, and then this comes out, and I'm like, well, I want a franchise, so I'm back.
It's like, give it to me. Just give it to me straight, 100%.
Give it to me.
No, I'm glad that you know, I kind of just wanted to get over like, you know, initial reactions, get your guys' general thoughts before we kind of just dive into spoilers here. But Mr. Michelangelo, what are your thoughts of the film? You just saw it like literally an hour ago.
I love this movie. It's fantastic. You know, the Ninja Turtles have existed for like 40 years now, right? And each version is very different. Like the original comic run was like super gritty, and it was a parody of like Daredevil and X-Men, and then it evolved into that goofy animated series we all love from the 80s, which evolved into those gritty 90s movies, which devolved into silly nonsense. And you know, each version of the Turtles has been vastly different, and this continues that trend. I think that's why this franchise has so much staying power. Unlike some of the superhero stuff or some of these other franchises, Turtle fandom, like as society, we just accepted that each version is going to be drastically different than the last. And so this movie does things that I never would have expected the Turtles to do. And it works, and you just accept it, and they pull it off. And from the animation style to even the characters, right? The Turtles themselves, like Leah was saying, them being so much younger. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but since 2003, the Turtles have been getting younger and younger in each iteration. So they are actually like 14-year-old boys in this movie, and they feel like it. And you can feel that energy and that dynamic between them, and it's just so refreshing. In the comparison to Spider-Verse, love Spider-Verse, Miles feels like an adult. It does not feel like he's 16 years old in that movie. And that kind of happens a lot in Spider-Man stories in general, which isn't a bad thing, but it's refreshing to see actual teenagers in these roles, because it's just a completely different energy from the voice acting, from the chemistry that they have in the booth. You can just feel it, and it comes out on screen. And Superfly is dope. I mean, come on. Great villain. It's ridiculous, but I loved every second of it. I especially love what they did with April. It's something that the 2012 series kind of did with April O'Neil, because she's like a teenager in that series. I think that's the first time she became a child, like around the same age as the Turtles. And they kind of hit some similar beats there, which is great. That show's probably the best iteration of the TMNT.
Is that the Nickelodeon one? The CGI?
The Nickelodeon one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was lit. That 2012 was lit.
It was, Christian, you'd love it. It's by the folks who made Teen Titans. You should check it out.
Oh, I already started it.
Great show. Great show. But yeah, Mutant Mayhem is kind of hitting similar beats to that in some aspects. And Shredder not being here, that's not a spoiler. It's called Mutant Mayhem. He's not in this movie.
Right.
Shredder not being here is why I think this movie works. You could have done a story with Shredder here, and it would have worked and made sense. But by not having him be the main antagonist for the Turtles, it allowed some of these other characters to shine, because these are all characters from the 80s series. They're not just made up for the movie. These are all Ninja Turtles villains and antagonists and allies. And I appreciate how we kind of pulled, especially from that original show, because Leatherhead's design is just ripped from that original show, and we're modernizing it instead of just, oh, it's a reboot, we're going to do our own thing. They're still paying homage to a lot of what came before, and I think that just makes it all come together really well.
Yeah, I think both of you guys have hit the nail on the head there. It's especially for mine, just for my just general overall thoughts. Like, I love how this film, obviously we're getting more. And at first I thought it was a bit premature to like announce like a series and a sequel beforehand. But now, obviously, after seeing this, I'm like, yeah, okay, they have a lot of faith in this. And I love how it's an origin, but more so like an introductory for the Turtles. Like, obviously, we've seen so many origin stories between Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, and just the whole lot of superheroes where it's like, oh, well, we got a new Spider-Man movie coming out. That means there's going to be a new audience. It means we got to watch Uncle Ben die again. And I'm like, no, I was so tired of seeing Uncle Ben die. And I think that's one of the reasons why Spider-Man Homecoming is one of my favorite, because when I first saw it, I was like, this is so refreshing. This is new. This is different. Like, obviously, they give you like the general backstory of what happens here for the Ninja Turtles, but it's done in a very quirky and just exciting way that like kind of made me giggle.
It's because, done in a meta way that I don't know if we want to spoil it now, But
No, yeah,
the
we definitely can. Like, this is all spoilers. I just wanted to get everyone's initial reactions first, just your general thoughts. But yeah, we're like, there's no warning here. Like, this is just all spoiling.
Okay, so that when we get the flashback and the backstory, I laugh so hard because Splinter used it as a punishment. It's like, you get the long-winded version this time. And it's like, because they know, as the viewer, we know what happens. Ooze goes down the sewer, hits 4 baby turtles and a rat. But it's like, nope, you guys are going to have to sit through this. We know you don't want to, but you got to sit through it anyway. It's like, that's genius. That's amazing.
I love that Splinter has all these like dad stereotypes this time around. He's like, boys, where have you been? Like, he's just like trying to keep track of them like a real dad this time. It's actually pretty hilarious. Like, Jackie Chan is like a match made in heaven for this role, I think.
He really is. I miss him dearly. Like, it's been so long since I feel like we've had like anything like Jackie Chan related, but he's kind of just been, living his life, doing his own thing. But yeah, what you guys are both saying, I think it is hilarious how, we get this weird like explanation of, oh, well, Master Splinter was an older rat, even though they all got hit with the ooze at the same time. So they're like, oh, it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Like, he was the older rat. So when he got hit with the ooze, he grew up. He was already like an adult. He was already an adult rat. So
he was like very 20, right?
Yeah, he was like 20, like the spry age of like 20, 25. I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. I love that like Master Splinter is like reminiscing about the old days. And then, so as you guys were saying, there's a lot of Spider-Verse comparisons, but I would say for the animation, it's, and I believe Seth Rogen was saying this during an interview, that they wanted the Turtles and just the world to be drawn as if a kid was drawing the Turtles, if that makes any sense. Like, because obviously each turtle nowadays, what we've seen the iterations of them, they all have their own unique like body type, style, and whatnot. And obviously, Raph has more of like the full bandana thing going on, which kind of really speaks to his hot-headedness character. But I love how each character or each turtle, if a kid was drawing it, I feel like this is how they would kind of draw these turtles. Because, like obviously like in the original cartoon series, it was literally, just kind of like the same model, just, they all had like their own weapons and their own colors and whatnot. But I like this. It's like an oil painted like claymation almost, if that makes any sense.
It feels kind of like Mitchell's and the Machines, right?
Yeah, almost, yeah. But like
with like a little bit of a sketched out design as well. Like, kind of some sketching.
Yeah, and like it flows so well together. And I was like, it's weird, and it's this weird like gritty New York, and it's like everyone's like all of the villains' faces like somewhat disfigured. I'm like, yeah, it definitely looks like they're like, yeah, we want to go for as if like a child was like drawing these almost like in a way, like as to make it to have that type of illusion. But I think Jeff Crow, the director, was saying I think it was Phil Lord was saying on Twitter how important it is for people to go see movies like this, because he was talking about how Hollywood is driven by two things, and that's fear and greed. And he wanted people to go see this movie because when people do, that's when Hollywood gets greedy, and then that opens the door for even more animated possibilities. And since this is the first animated Ninja Turtles movie that we've had since, what was it, 2007? Well, theatrical, I should say, because there are other animated turtle movies out there, but theatrical releases, this is the first movie we've had since, I believe it was 2007, the TMNT film, which I've not seen that since it came out. But I think when it comes to turtles and in most comic book movies in general, I think animation really is just the way to go, because there's so much you can do. The sky's the limit. Obviously, we've seen what is possible with Mitchell versus the Machine, Nimona this year as well, Suzume this year as well, and of course, Ninja Turtles. And it's like and animation, it's been stronger than it's ever been, I think, in this year alone for 2023. So I absolutely adored just how, Superfly comes in. He's kind of like the villain foil almost to Master Splinter, trying to protect his own while Master Splinter is also trying to protect his boys. And, I had read somewhere and actually wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. It was actually another podcast I was listening to. I forgot the name of the podcast, but they were saying how, and I hate to bring up the Mario movie, but I had to bring it up just for a second. I see Mike over there rolling his eyes.
Love that. Yeah.
So someone was saying on this other podcast that this movie is very surface level. They were saying it was as surface level as Mario. And I was like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. And I was like, no. Like I said, I can't remember the name of the podcast I was listening to, but it was just one of the takeaways that kind of just stuck with me. And I thought about it. I was like, no, I don't really agree with that sentiment. But, obviously this is a kid's movie, but as we've been talking here, this is a franchise. Like, obviously Mario is multi-generational, but when it comes to the Turtles, it's so different. But I wanted to get your guys' takes on, do you think this is as service level as the Mario movie?
No. I feel like we all know the answer. I don't know what podcast this was. I'm sorry. I
don't want to blast them on here. You know.
I don't want to, you have your opinion. It's fine. No. I feel like this movie hits a lot of beats that the Ninja Turtles kind of always had. It's like, and it also kind of opens up a bit more. A lot of the Turtle movies don't focus on their role in the world or their place in the world, right? This entire plot is they want to be accepted because they are mutant turtles. And I think it's an interesting spin that Splinter basically is instilling fear into them because they won't be accepted. Nobody's going to like them. They can't fit in society. They can't be normal kids. And while that is a very similar theme to the Mario movie, I will, address that. Mario kind of hits a similar beat. I just don't know if it does it as effectively as the Ninja Turtles do. Because again, I just think doing it from Leo's perspective, but also seeing how it affects his family. And that's what I mean by Leo is constantly the main character and like focus of turtle stories. So like we're seeing how the world is rejecting him and how that affects him, but we're also seeing how it affects his brothers and how it in turn affecting his brothers affects him as well. And he has got all that pressure and all that stress, and he's also still a child, so he's also going to be the tattletale who tells their father because he wants to stay in the good graces.
I was like, come on, Leo, don't be doing that. Come on now.
Yeah, he's like 14. He's a snitch. It's fine. I get it, but yeah. But again, those are already layers that I personally didn't see in the Mario movie at all anyway. So yeah, I think there's a little more nuance and depth with some of the characters and their arcs in this story as opposed to Mario, which is very linear, like I don't think Mario necessarily changes from beginning to end of that story aside from getting slightly more confident, I guess. But where here the Turtles, like they had an entire arc that went even further than I thought it would once you get to the end, which I don't think I've seen done before in any Turtles media at all. So I'm excited to see where they go in the future with that.
Yeah. Leo, did you want to weigh in on that at all? Or you think Mike?
Yeah, I mean, Mike summed up a good amount of it. But yeah, I think the biggest difference here is that you do get character arcs in the TMNT, which is something we don't often get, like Mike was saying. We're usually very established in the Turtle stories. So it's cool to see everybody get an arc here that's very representative of their character. Mario and Luigi just kind of like, Mario's just cruising through the movie, man. Like he goes into the Mushroom Kingdom, he's eating mushrooms. And I mean, it just kind of happens. It's like a Mario game. Like it really is. But here the characters are fleshed out. There's development, there's stories. and that story throughout of them, being rejected and by society is highly emphasized, and it's not emphasized in Mario. It's more so like, oh, his family doesn't even necessarily disapprove of what's going on with him, but like, he could be doing better, Mario. And then like, we get to the end and Mans is doing it a little better. Like, that's kind of just what happens there. But with the TMNT, we get a full fleshed out round of stories for the Turtles.
Yeah, and we get to see the Turtles go to high school because that was their dream. That's what they wanted to do. Yeah. And them taking off their headbands as well. And obviously you're still being able to distinct between them, obviously because of their physique. But yeah, I didn't think they were going to get that far. I was like, oh, they're going to probably save the day and that'll be it. It's like, no, it took it that step further. And then we get the mid-credit scene with Shredder. And apparently, I think this is. I was so excited because because there's essentially two different villains in this movie. Obviously, you have Superfly, and then you have the lady. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name, but she was voiced by
Cynthia Utrum.
Yeah, Cynthia Utrum.
If you know what her last name is very important.
I started to pick up. I watched Ending Explained the other day, so I was
didn't.
like,
I just know it.
He just knows. Mike is a massive Turtle fan. Yeah, but I love how they actually addressed that because I was like, oh, like we haven't seen Cynthia in a while. And then they actually bring it up like, oh, during the big battle, like her and her crew kind of just like dip out. And no one knows or has seen from them. And then she contacts Shredder. And I was like, oh, so this is going to be awesome. But I believe this is spinning off into a series. I don't think that there's going to be another movie and then a series. I think there's this movie. And then I think the series is supposed to run.
Both. I think there's both.
Yeah, there's both. But I'm trying to figure out which one's coming
series
first.
Takes place in between now and 2.
And 2. Okay. Do we know how many seasons that's going to be? I'm not sure. I'm assuming probably no more than like.
They already got greenlit for 2 seasons.
Okay.
One thing's for sure about Cynthia is like, is she about to look like a pink blob in the next movie or something? Like she did in the 03 and all the other versions.
Oh yeah.
The Utrums are like that blob, those little
it's like a brain kind of thing.
Yeah.
In the 80s, they're known as the Krang, but yeah, they're the Utrums. They're an alien species of little brains that live inside of human bodies, and she's wearing the exact same colors as Krang from the 80s cartoon. So think about that.
Interesting.
I was surprised they didn't reveal that in the movie.
Right.
They're holding that card.
By the way, speaking of reveals, the references here were hilarious.
Yes.
The references with like Avengers when he's like pulling off the humans that he invited to the party, and it's the 3 Chris's.
Chris Pine is the best Pine. Chris Pine is the best Chris. It was Chris Pine, Chris
Evans and Pratt.
Evans and
Pratt. That's right. Chris Pratt was in there
Which
too.
I'm surprised they didn't do the bias of saying Chris Evans was the best Chris, because he's literally Casey Jones in that 2007 movie.
That's right.
Is he really? Oh my gosh. See, I didn't even realize that was him.
They forgot one Chris. They forgot Hemsworth.
Yeah, they did.
Master Splinter can only carry so many standees.
Give Master Splinter a break. But no, I adored how they it's like a setup, you have the loose threads that's going to eventually pay off. And do you think we're going to see Shredder in the series first before we see him in the movie? Or do you think he's just the big bad of the second movie, and then they're going to kind of go through like a rogues gallery of like their other villains in the series?
I think he's big bad of 2. I think don't introduce him in the series. I think in the series, let's follow them in high school.
Yeah,
type of deal.
That's gonna be
then
awesome.
We can get to the second movie. Maybe it's a case of where you don't even have to watch the series, but you can jump into the second movie and Shredder's like the main dude, the main bad.
Yeah.
So the series is going to be filler. That's what you're telling me.
Will
It's
Mike
literally
watch
My Hero Academia
Turtles
filler. We're going to school. We're doing a school thing before the real stuff happens. That is classic
gosh.
My Hero Academia.
Classic. Or like Naruto, they can do some missions and stuff and just do random side missions.
Naruto could have lasted way longer than it did, but we're not going to get into that.
Well, them 100 episodes of Thriller sure did pump it out much longer than it needed to be.
Yeah, for sure. But I wanted to get back to what Leo was talking about really quick about the references. So we know that Donnie is a massive anime fan, and he is a big Attack on Titan fan. Leo, have you watched Attack on Titan yet?
Oh yeah, I've been through season 1. I'm just not caught up.
Okay. That's good. Yes, and for all of our wonderful listeners out there, Mr. Mike is wearing an Aaron Yeager shirt right now, supporting us weebs out there wherever you are.
I wore this to the movie without any knowledge, and I was dying laughing.
That was awesome.
Sitting there in the theater
awesome.
with my Attack on Titan shirt. I'm like, Donnie, this is why I love you.
I loved. He's the biggest. Like, he's the most underrated turtle. Like, he always has been, and like
All of
like,
y'all say that, but then when we ask about favorites, a bunch of people say Donnie.
I know, it's weird because, like, he has a stick. He makes fun of that. He has a stick this entire movie, and he's like, "What am I doing? Like, I have a stick."
He was the last one to pick, I guess.
They're like, we're gonna give this other turtle a stick. Yeah, he's gonna be really good with that pole. Like, it's gonna be almost like a double lightsaber, but not really. But hey, more respect for Donnie, because he is. I love it how he has his little glasses on. Mikey has braces. He has the Hey Arnold looking head. That was a very funny reference, by the way.
You can tell this movie was made by '90s kids.
Yes, sounds like the freaking 90s references, the 90s needle drops, even just the animation style, very reminiscent of 90s hoopla.
Yeah, and I believe Seth Rogen also said, I was looking through a bit of the trivia, he had mentioned that the soundtrack was comparable to like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater in 1999. And I was like, yeah, I can definitely see that. Like, it's just oozing with like these amazing references. Ooze.
Ooze. We say ooze.
Rolls off the tongue, right? Ooze.
Ooze.
But like, no pun intended, but low-key pun intended, where it's just the movie has all of these old school references, and then, they're kind of bringing it in for new audiences. And I feel like this is how you like reboot a franchise, where it just feels like the Turtles. They haven't really changed when it comes to their characteristics, but you bring them into a new audience. And like, there's so many kids at my early screening, and they just ate it up. It was insane. And then you have all the old school fans as well, where it's like everyone's just enjoying this movie. And I absolutely love that. Like, this is just like the everyman's movie. You know what I mean?
I love all the references. When they had What's Up playing during that car chase, that had me dying. Because not only was it What's Up, they also sprinkled in some of the meme He-Man version from YouTube. If anybody's familiar with that version of the song.
I am not.
I'm gonna send it to you, Christian, because that really killed me. Yes. There's an edit with He-Man, and they reference that.
Oh
in
my
the
God,
movie.
it's so hilarious.
Oh,
Christian,
gosh,
you ain't seen the He-Man? Oh my God. I've
never been like a big He-Man. I just that franchise literally flew.
Listen, I'm not huge on He-Man either, but like that meme, I know that meme. It's hilarious. Once you see it, you might actually recognize it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's YouTube history. The needle drops are fantastic. Again, like Ice Cube, Superfly, like his quotes were just they were gold. Like his delivery was fantastic. I love how they revamped the story, because traditionally Baxter Stockman turns into a fly, but instead Baxter Stockman mutates a fly, and that becomes Superfly. And I guess Stockman, according to what they said, is deceased. And so instead of getting nerdy Baxter Stockman as a fly, we get the coolest dude ever in Ice Cube. And it's just like,
Right?
that's a really, really cool update. I wanted to ask you guys, though, if I could, who was your favorite mutant in this movie? Not the Turtles or Splinter, like of Superfly's crew. Who was your favorite?
Oh, Mondo Gecko, easy. I love it. I'm like the Paul Rudd. I'm a hugger, dude. Like, come on over here, guys. Let's get some hugs. Like, him and Donnie or him and Mikey going back and forth was hilarious to me.
Rowe.
Also, I kind of feel like Bebop and Rocksteady were like underused. Like, I was like, we barely heard them, so I wanted to hear like a little bit more from them. But Mondo Gecko like really got some moments to shine.
He did,
and yeah, I think out of the crew, he was like my favorite. Oh, and Splinter's girlfriend.
oh my god, that made me feel so uncomfortable. Well, outside of Mondo Gecko, I have to give some props to Ray Fillet. Like, I absolutely.
He's like, man, if you don't quit that singing.
Seriously. He got on Superfly's nerves. Well, he's trying to hit those high notes. He's trying to hit that falsetto. Of course.
He's trying to give you that 90s R&B vibe. He's trying to give you that.
Voiced by
Gotta give Vanilla Ice a run for his money.
By the way, great drop of Go Ninja Go and the little radio in the first battle. That was dope.
Yeah, that was.
They
really
went to
great.
Laird Pizza. That's another cool reference. Which
there was a few in there.
Peter Laird.
Yeah. I was going to ask you guys because when we did our spoiler-free review, Devin was mentioning that he, as much as he loved the references, when it came to like anime, Attack on Titan, Horizon, Forza Horizon, he was wondering if most of those references are going to be like evergreen, or if it's going to kind of like stay within a certain time of like let's say we look back on this movie, I don't know, 10, 15 years down the road. Well, those references, not like the 90s references, like more so like the anime, the video games, like the Riz references. He was wondering if those are going to, hold up, like, let's say like 10 years down the line. And it got me thinking, I was like, maybe not. I really don't know. It just depends because, there are a lot of movies where there's a bunch of references that go over people's heads because it was of the times. But I feel like that's most movies anyway. You know what I mean? It just depends on what the reference is and if it's still relevant. But did you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Devin's right, but I don't think that's a problem. In the sense that this movie is set in 2023. They even say it in the movie. It's 2023. And so they're children who are 14, 15 years old in 2023. So they're going to make references to things that are relevant to kids in 2023. And in 10 years, yeah, it's not going to be relevant, but I don't think that's a problem. Like, movies, in my opinion, are time capsules of the era they came out. Back to the Futures from the 80s. There's references in there that as a kid I didn't understand, but I still love the movie. That's just kind of par for the course. And it kind of teaches you about that era. So if a kid watches this movie 10 years from now, they're going to be like, who's Hulk? What is Avengers Endgame? What did Riz mean? And so it's like, you kind of, I don't think it's a hindrance. Like, the movie's still accessible. The story itself is evergreen, even if some of the content, some of the references won't be. And to me, that's what makes movies fun, Like, kind of when I watch movies and I'm watching like 70s dramas, I'm learning what they thought the world looked like in the 70s. May not be an ideal representation of what the world looks like in the 70s, but this is how they were making movies. These are the stories they were telling. These are the references, the words, the phrases, all the stuff that they were saying. So I don't think that's going to be a hindrance at all. I don't think it's going to be as bad as watching Hulk dab. That was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But them referencing Avengers Endgame, I think is fine. That movie's not going to disappear. Kids are still going to watch it.
Yeah, definitely. Leah, what are your thoughts?
There ain't nothing wrong with Hulk dabbing. But I kind of feel like I was a little confused at first. I think that was something I put in my review that I was like, okay, like what are we trying to cater to here? But after like really having some time to sit and think about it, I was like, okay, we're introducing some 90s style and references and things like that to a new generation. So I think it's definitely something for the entire family, but they're also introducing like that core Turtles moment, the elements, the music, the style to new viewers. So I do think that it caters to like the new generation well.
They kind of have to. Sorry.
No, go ahead. You're good.
I was just gonna say they kind of have to. Like again, like we were saying earlier in the show, the Turtles have to evolve, and that's something that they've always been really good at, is evolving with their audience. So I feel like them catering, like people say Riz, they do. They say Riz to this day. They probably won't say Riz 5 years from now, but guess what? There's going to be another reboot. It's going to be another version of the Turtles for the kids who are watching in that generation. Because every 5 years, there was always going to be a different version of the Turtles. Remember Rise of the Ninja Turtles? And that had a movie come out just last year. And here we are with another reboot. So
that's true.
I don't think that's a hindrance. I mean, you guys just watched the original 90s movie. And Michelangelo says he gets Domino's for free because they were late. That's not a thing that they have done in like 20 years. But that's a reference.
Speak for yourself, buddy. Speak for yourself. I still be on that Mikey tip. Like, y'all late. This is free.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mikey's words are true to this day. I absolutely love that line. I was like, and I've heard that line before, and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't realize it was in that first film when I watched it. It's like, oh, wise men say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. I was like, yeah, that still holds up.
Peak Mikey.
No, it seems like dude's got 30 seconds.
Peak Mikey.
I was like, he's timing him. No, it really, really was. But no, that's a really good reference for sure. Yeah, because in my review, in our spoiler-free review, I should say, because at first I was like, well, maybe that was like maybe for me, because when Devin brought it up, I was like, well, maybe he's right. I'm not entirely sure, but now that like Leo had said, now we've literally had time to think about it, because it's hard to kind of just give all of your like definitive thoughts about a film like right after you've seen it, because obviously I'm sure Mike's gonna have some thoughts later on, because he literally just came out of the movies, like not too like 2 hours ago. So it's crazy how I love it. I absolutely love how everyone's just kind of coming together and watching this. And of course, not only that, people are kind of revisiting, like the old TV shows, the films and whatnot. And, Paramount Plus just put a majority of or at least the theatrical films of the Turtles on Paramount Plus. So that is where you can stream some older Turtle content if you so desire. But I wanted to pass it back over to you guys if there's anything you wanted to mention that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. I'll start with Leo and then I'll go to Mike.
I think we've covered just about everything. Mike might have a few other things, but
yeah,
just off the top, I think we covered most of it.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys like a chance to, if there's anything else you wanted to bring up in the review. But yeah, Mike, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, it's just stuff we kind of touched on, but I really love how the Turtles are well-rounded characters. A lot of times, they're kind of like one person split up across 4 people. Raph is angry, Donnie's smart, Mikey's goofy, Leo is stern and strict. And it's like, yeah, put them together, you have one person. They're like 4 parts of a personality. They all have their own individual personalities and characteristics. Like Mikey's not just an idiot, which kind of bugs me sometimes. Like they just make him like too stupid. Mikey is clearly like the youngest and probably the most naive of them, but he's still very competent. He's no dumber than Raphael. Raphael, they touched on him having some anger issues because he dreams about fighting every night, but he's like Leo was saying at the top of the show. Right? Like Leo was saying at the top of the show, he's not getting in Leonardo's face. There's no strife between them, right? Like they're brothers, they pick on each other, they disagree a little bit, but like he doesn't want to cut his head off, which a lot of versions of the Turtles kind of go a little too far with the rivalry. Yeah. Like they go full Naruto and Sasuke. It's like, y'all are literally brothers. Calm down. It's okay.
Right,
Yeah.
that '07 movie, like they went. I was like, "Dang, bro, y'all on the rooftop."
I might watch that tonight. I told myself I was going to watch one movie per day to kind of like, digest and space out my viewings, but I might watch it. It just depends.
Yeah,
But
Mike can
sorry.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's that the capital TMNT, the '07 animated one, is like.
Yeah.
It was like really heated in that one. I was like, dang, okay, aren't y'all related?
Yeah. It gets really heated. And it's great. It's a great fight, a great scene, but it's also like, guys, tone it down a little bit. It's okay. They're family.
Yeah.
Just a smidge. Just a smidge.
Just a switch.
So I actually really like that their strengths and characteristics were captured in school subjects. I was like, okay, I love the improvisation for Michelangelo. I think that that's actually a competent way of explaining his character. He can think on his feet really quick and he's fast and nimble. I was like, that's perfectly explaining that character because I think out of the four turtles, he's always presented, like you were saying, Mike, as the dumb one. Like he's kind of like well, it's just Mikey, but like giving him that improvisational edge helped his character a lot. And then of course, Raph with the wrestling, Leo with the journalism. But I think giving Mikey that helped his character the most.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike, what were you saying before?
No, Leo kind of took the words out of my mouth there, but I do want to just highlight how excited I am for the spinoff series and the next movie because this is uncharted territory. Ninja Turtles in school, in the public eye, don't have to hide. They're literally out of the shadows. There's a movie called Out of the Shadows, and that didn't do this. So, like, what happens now? Like, every iteration of the Turtles, they follow some similar story beats, even though they are vastly different. Like the last one, they had superpowers. But they still are like, we're ninjas. We
Wait,
live
what?
in the sewer. Rise of the Ninja Turtles, they have superpowers. They literally have superpowers.
Yeah, they got. Yeah,
I haven't started that series yet.
I think it's on Paramount and the movie's on Netflix. But yeah, so I'm interested to see how we tackle this new normal, especially with the Shredder. Like the relationship with the Shredder is now fundamentally different. Because in previous iterations, it was always a feud. Shredder either killed Hamato Yoshi or he killed Hamato Yoshi's wife, depending on which version of the story you're in. And Hamato Yoshi's either Splinter himself, who got turned into a rat, or Splinter is the pet of Hamato Yoshi.
Right.
So they don't have, if Splinter learned from watching YouTube videos, which we didn't even talk about, that's hilarious. If Splinter learned from watching Kung Fu movies and YouTube videos, he was never adopted by Hamato Yoshi, and he clearly was never Hamato Yoshi. So the rivalry between the Turtles and Shredder is in a completely different spot than it's ever been. So I'm really interested in how they approach everything going forward.
Yeah, the him popping up those '80s martial arts videos were hilarious, man. I actually love that retcon. I think that's hilarious. But I think that it's not too late for them to still have that. I think that that's still a possibility. I know he explained it to us that he was just some random rat in the trash. But I mean, you can still possibly squeeze that in.
Yeah, it gives them the option or the opportunity to kind of like have their own little origins. Like, I've always thought of it this way. And, Seth Rogen and the rest of the producers and whatnot, because so much love was just like put into this film and it really shows. And with the easy runtime of like an hour and 40 minutes as well. But let's get into our, this is our final thoughts. We don't have to give ratings in general, but I wanted to get your guys' final thoughts on this movie. We'll start with Mike and then go to Leo, and then I will close out.
Yeah, Mutant Mayhem, fantastic. Loved every minute of it. There are some like small things that I think we could have done a little bit better. Like the Turtles are introduced at a point where Splinter trusts them to run errands, go get groceries. Like most Turtle stories, they're not even allowed to go above to the surface at all anyway.
Right.
So this entire world is very fundamentally different than anything we've seen before. And that's cool. But that also, me being the Turtle fan that I am, kind of gives me a couple questions that they don't answer. But I've got a TV show and another movie to watch, in a year or two. So that's fine. I really love what they did with April. We didn't talk about April at all, but I feel like
that's
April's
right. We did
character.
not.
We went an hour and didn't talk about April O'Neil, but I love her dynamic with the turtles. I especially love just kind of she's very different in the sense that she's, I think, the first April that doesn't faint when meeting the turtles. She's surprised, confused, but also she's built different, I guess the easiest way to put it, to where at her core, she's very much like 80s April, where she wants to be a reporter and she wants to do all these great things, but also, again, mixing up the lore, she is a teenager who is at the same level as the turtles, so they can relate in a much different way than they can when April's like 35 years old. So I think that dynamic is cool. I think Leo's crush on her is hilarious, especially since in the other series, Donatello had a crush on April, so we're pulling things from different points and mixing them up a bit. But cast was great. April was great. I can't wait to see where we go from here. I knew I was gonna like this movie, but after watching it, I'm way more excited to see where that series and the next film goes, because I have no idea where they take this, and I can't wait to see who plays Shredder. If we have Jackie Chan playing Splinter, who on earth will play the Shredder?
Oh, that's a good question, Mike. I don't know.
Jack Black?
Simu Liu? Someone? Jack Wade?
Bowser and Shredder?
Jack Wade?
Kid, no.
That would be the most awkward Shredder ever.
Hey, guys. That would be hilarious. But yeah, no, for April, I think they kind of like mocked or mimicked her from the rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because she is black in that series as well, which I thought was really nice touch, especially for kids watching that show. But Leo, what are your final thoughts on this film?
Man, we didn't touch on April O'Neil. She was great. Loved how thirsty she was for the story. That's very April O'Neil. And like you said, Mike, she was just like along for the ride with the turtles. Like, yeah, confused. But at the end of the day, she's like, yeah, I'm down for it. But love that character design. Loved her. Stop that picking on April. Y'all know who you are out there. It's a great character design. I want to hear it. But really love the action sequences here, the music, the turtles and their relationship, their bond, the voice acting. Perfect for me. I'm looking at like a 9.5 out of 10 for this one. I love it.
Oh, wow.
Loved it.
Yeah, I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. I forgot what I gave it on our spoiler-free one, but it was definitely in the 90s altogether. But yeah, I mean, this film is just it's an absolute blast, and it offers that fresh, more realistic perspective of the Teenage Turtles that we all love, and giving them a little bit more depth with their characters, and then combined with that amazing, fantastic soundtrack, stunning visuals, engaging story. It's a story that we've heard time and time over and over again, but it still hits the same, the story of acceptance. And yeah, it's just it hits on that coming of age for these half shell heroes altogether. I think everyone can enjoy. And yeah, Jackie Chan's back. Hopefully, we get to see more of him in Hollywood within or just more projects coming up. But yeah, this was a great movie.
Rush Hour 4, baby.
Easily one of my favorite movies of the year. I would say it's definitely I'd say it's my top 5 as of right now. It's just, animation, like I said, it's just been killing it this year. And we're still not done. We still have The Boy and the Heron. Or I guess
we still got Wish.
Oh yeah, and Wish as well. I was kind of disappointed they changed the Studio Ghibli's to The Boy and the Heron from How Do You Live. I was like, I liked the first title, or I guess the original or Japanese title better. But I guess G Kids, you got to make it a little bit
crazy, because that's a direct translation of the Japanese title. So why did we just change it? It should just kept it the same. That's a direct translation of what it means.
Probably because of children, and it's like the Harry Potter book where it's it's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, but in America here it's like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, because Americans don't know what philosophers are. And I was like, oh, well.
Sure.
But with all that said, I would like to thank Michelangelo and Leonardo for joining me on this spoiler coverage of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Again, I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to let people know what is coming up on your respective outlets and where they can find you on the internet. We'll start with Leo, and then we'll go to Mike, and then I will close out.
Coming up, we got My Adventures of Superman. I almost said Superman Lois. My Adventures of Superman. Have a video coming out for that later on. And then got a lot of movie reviews, a lot of movies around the corner. Heart of Stone is coming to Netflix with Gal Gadot. And all kind of stuff around the corner, guys. So come on over to the channel, Geekly Goods on YouTube, and we'll see you there.
All right, Mr. Michelangelo, where can people find you on the internet and what's coming up on your respective outlets?
Yeah, Novice Cinephile on Twitter or X, whatever. Also, the Novice Cinephile pretty much everywhere else. YouTube, The Chatter After. We are going to be doing a live stream on Monday, talking Ninja Turtles again. Christian, Leo, the whole crew, everybody's going to be there, ranking all of the Ninja Turtle movies on a tier list. So if you guys want to hang out with us live, make sure you come to The Chatter After and join the stream. Also on the Amateur Otaku podcast, it's One Piece. We're going to be talking One Piece later this month. Like, we are gearing up for Gear 5 Luffy in the anime. Don't know what that means, but Brandon said it's important. And we're gearing up for the Netflix adaptation coming at the end of the month. We're going to be reviewing all 8 episodes when that comes out. So stay tuned.
All right. And again, thank you guys so much for coming on. You know, it's always been a pleasure, you know, bringing you guys on. It's always awesome. You know, we're always talking. So now it's time to talk about some turtles. But with all that said, that does conclude today's episode. If you like what you heard on today's episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast platform of choice. And of course, make sure to follow us on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, all that social media garbage at Film Optics. That is Optics with an X. And don't forget to share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Spread the love of the Film Optics podcast with a movie lover in need. And really quick, what you can listen to right now on our show, you can listen to our Secret Invasion episode 336 review that is full on spoilers alongside of our Justice League Warworld 4K Blu-ray breakdown. And you can also check out our Barbenheimer review that is twice the excitement, twice the fun of Barbie and Oppenheimer in one giant review. Of course, you can listen to our spoiler-free review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And of course, you can check out our The Last of Us 4K Blu-ray coverage as well for what's coming up on our podcast. We're going to be covering The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and we're also going to be doing a kind of like a mid-year reflective podcast episode where we're going to be talking about our favorite films of 2023 thus far. And with all that said, thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, again, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and stay connected with us by following us on social medias across the globe for the latest updates. I'm Christian, that was Michelangelo, and Leo signing off. And remember, life is like a movie, so go out there and make it a blockbuster.